Hey everybody, Matt here, continuing on conversation. I wanted to hit a couple quick points about harassment policies. First, just in brief, my position is pretty clear. Harassment policies are necessary. They provide legal protection for both the event organizers and the participants. And they also make it clear what is and isn't going to be allowed at the convention. And the conventions are within their rights and are incredibly smart to do this. We seem to be kind of butting heads against people who are nearly anarchists in their refusal to be told what to do. I'm sorry to tell you that if I have a party at my house, I make the rules on what does and doesn't happen at that party. And if you don't like it, you don't have to come. And the same thing is true with conventions in the atheist and skeptics community. The organizers for the conventions get to decide what is and isn't permissible at their events. And depending on what kind of rules they come up with, will determine what sort of people actually bother to show up for these things. If they make rules that make it so that people can't have any sort of fun at the conventions, then they're going to lose attendees. And if they don't make enough rules, they're potentially excluding people who don't want to come to an environment where they don't have any confidence that they are going to treat problems of harassment, etc., in a way that ensures that people are safe and free from harassment. You've got to decide what kind of event you actually want to have. If you want to have a welcoming and safe event, you make up the rules that are conducive to that sort of event. It's pretty simple. There have been several objections that I've heard launched against the harassment policies. One of them is that they're overreaching with regard to touching, because some of them have a no touching without permission policy. I understand why people at first glance say, no, come on, really? If I tap somebody on the shoulder, as a means of getting their attention, clearly I don't have to ask to do that, or I would already have their attention. That seems overreaching. I don't know what they think is going to happen if there's a rule in there that we've tossed sanity out the window just because we have a policy, or that we're going to ignore normal human interactions. This is about identifying the sort of things that people have found objectionable and might find objectionable, and supporting the idea that consent, and preferably enthusiastic consent, is always going to be always going to have a better result than ambiguity or refusal. And so, I don't know, as somebody who is involved in these events, and the ACA has put together a harassment policy, and as soon as it's finalized, it'll be public. I don't know exactly what the wording is going to be, but if somebody came up to me and said, hey, this guy tapped me on the shoulder, my answer is going to be, I'm sorry that that bothered you. I'll be happy to talk to that individual to let them know that, you prefer not to be touched. Because I know people personally. Some of them have Tourette's, OCD, other things where touching is a trigger, and they can't stand to be touched. And then other people would just prefer not to be touched. But most of this is just going to be handled through normal interaction. Having a policy that basically says, we're encouraging you to ask permission before touching people, is about educating people to not assume that groping, hugging, touching of any kind is automatically okay. There are people that for the rest of my life, or at least until we end up hating each other, I will never have to ask them for permission to hug. And they'll never have to ask me either, because we've established that sort of relationship already. What we're doing is we're trying to encourage people to establish the boundaries of those relationships in a sane way. This is not about shackling everybody and eliminating all, human contact. Another objection, oh, there we go, I'm being touched. Beth is harassing me. Another objection that I've seen people launch is that the scope of the rules are overreaching, because some of them have talked about addressing events that happen in the bars at the hotels where the convention's at. Things that aren't part of the convention. And people have said, look, you have no right to tell me what I can and can't do at the bar outside of your convention. Have you lost your mind? No, they haven't lost their mind, and they're not telling you what you can and can't do at a bar. You're free to do whatever you want at the bar. And if what you do at the bar is something that is harassment towards another person at the convention, and they report it, you won't be allowed back into the convention. Or someone will talk to you and say, don't do that again, or we won't allow you back into the convention. This isn't about taking legal action or preventing what you can do at a bar. This is about making sure that somebody who's come to that convention and wants to socialize with people at the bar afterwards isn't made to spend the rest of the convention constantly facing the person who groped and harassed them in the bar the night before. It's about simple human decency. You have every right to do whatever you want. If you break the law, hey, we've got legal recourse, and maybe you'll find yourself in jail. If you're just sleazy and drunk and drooling all over somebody and grabbing their breasts or whatever, you may or may not find any legal action. But if I'm running the convention and someone comes up to me, and by the way, all of this that I'm saying applies universally. I don't care if it's harassment of a woman, harassment of a man, harassment of LGBT people, whatever. This is all the same. And somebody comes up to me and says, hey, there was this incident at the bar. I need to report it. I no longer feel safe at the convention. I do not want to, I can't stay here and continue to face this person who has made my activities in the bar as part of this convention completely unbearable. And I won't say what I would do about that, because it depends on the situation. Every single time we face one of these situations, we have to take the appropriate actions. We have to investigate it, we have to understand it, and then we have to make a decision about what, if anything, we're going to do. If this is just a he said, she said thing, or a he said thing, or a she said thing, or they said thing, maybe there's nothing we can do. But if we know that an incident took place, and we know that one individual or several individuals were aggressively harassing somebody in a manner that is, not consistent with the type of environment that we want to have at our events, and we're convinced that this actually happened, and now we have a choice. We either take no action and allow the aggressors to continue to enjoy their convention and possibly harass other people, giving our convention a bad name and making people feel unwelcome, or we exclude those people from the event based on the actions that took place outside the event in order to make more people welcome and avoid future incidents for participants, for attendees. Each situation is going to have to be viewed independently, and the organizers are going to have to make decisions. By spelling it out and making it clear that if you're at our convention, the whole time you're here, it's not that you're a representative of the convention officially, but you end up as a sort of representative in the conversations that take place about it. Who wants to go to a convention where if they go down to the bar in the casino or the hotel or wherever this thing is to interact with other atheists and skeptics, they have an absolutely miserable time? This is not about creating rules or trying to govern or police the actions that take place in the bar. That is entirely the purview of the hotel or casino that you're in and the legal authorities. This is about how we deal with our environment when complaints of this nature are raised. And by making it clear from the get-go what sort of action is going to be tolerated and what's not, we make it clear so that people, if for no other reason than fear of exclusion, make every attempt to treat other people like human beings.